It was the most fabulous experience of my life. For 11 days, I lived with the Beatles. I don't claim to know them intimately, but I will share a part of my experience with you. This is the story in sound of the Beatle Trip 66. This is Ken Douglas. John Lennon.
I read something recently that you are worrying about the Beatles being brought down. Certain people are interested in getting the Beatles over with.
I don't know. I think that's a bit of a one that's, I don't really know about that story, honestly. There's nobody, I've never said, there's nobody trying to pull us down. And I agree that if we were slipping, there's lots of people that'd clap hands, Daddy, come home.
What kind of people do you think would be interested?
I don't know, because they never show themselves until that time arises when it's ripe for them.
Do you feel you are slipping?
We don't feel we're slipping. Our music's better. Our sales might be less. So, in our view, we're not slipping,
How many years do you think you can go on? Have you thought about that?
It doesn't matter, The thing is...
You just try and go forward. And
the thing is, if we do slip, it doesn't matter, so what? We slip. And so we're not popular anymore, so we'll be also unpopular, won't we? We'll be like we were before, maybe.
And we can't invent a new gimmick to keep us going like people imagine we do.
Didn't you say that Britain is becoming a police state?
Oh, I'll tell you, we've really been putting our feet in it lately. You can't say anything, without it turning into the worst quote ever.
I mean, somebody just in passing saying it to a friend, you see. Also, we forget we're Beatles sometimes. You can't help it. We're still us inside. And if you say something like that, I didn't say it was one other. But when you say something like, Britain's becoming a police state, you say it exactly the same as anybody in a pub saying it to their friend across the bar. About some sweeping statement, which they can't back up anyway.
And it's obvious it's not to be taken literally, because if it was, then you wouldn't be allowed to say that, would you?
Now let's get better acquainted with John Lennon. Let's talk to him about being a Beatle.
John, I hear you're going to go into a movie very soon, I think after your tour.
Yeah.
What is this, John, about? Can you give me the story on that?
Well, all I know about it is it's about World War II. And I think it's not a broad comedy. It's a comedy. That's all I know about it. It's about World War II, and I'm called Gripweed.
Gripweed?
Yeah.
What's the name of it?
I think it's called How I Won the War, as far as I know.
What is actually, what part are you taking?
I'm just no, not really. I don't think it's sort of like gag lines so much, It's just, I'm just some soldier, from Batman to Michael Crawford. It's just, nobody ever, it's just about one of Dick Lester's films, and it's hard sort of trying to say what it's about, really, because he knows.
Well, yesterday I asked you during the press one question about your music, how it changed. What I was going to ask you now is that, do you write most of the lyrics, or do you write music, or is it?
No, it's never like that, I've written a song with a verse, say, and I've had it for a couple of weeks, and I just don't seem to be getting any more verses, so I just say to well, jingling-jing, have you got any verses for this? And then we either both write them, and we say, yeah, we'll grab this or that. It's very haphazard, There's no sort of rules for writing.
Is there any particular song, since you've been on the scene, that you favour most of all? Do you have a favourite, or?
I like Here, There and Everywhere and Yellow Submarine, just to listen to,
And looking towards the future, do you think you'll be back here at the United States game next year?
I don't think about the future as much as that, but I suppose we will, We just seem to come back every August as far as I can see. It's just sort of like the national trip, our annual trip.
How do you feel about being away on these tours without being near your wife for so long?
Well, the longest tour we ever do is 3 weeks, and it's usually in America we do the longest tours. And 3 weeks, if you're busy, you know, it's all over before you know what's happened. You're back home.
Well, thank you, John. I'll be talking to you again.
Okay, sure.
Jerry Layton, a disc jockey from Radio Caroline in England, and I were sitting with the Beatles carrying on an informal conversation. This is part of that conversation with Paul McCartney.
Paul, I'd like to ask you, when you put your music and your lyrics, do you write the lyrics or do you write the music? It's John, it's the other way around with John.
No, with the songs that we write, we both write lyrics and music. And it depends, you know, like with some songs I write lyrics and music, and so does John with some of the songs. On some, we just get together and just do a line each, you know, words and music each. Depends, you know, how it happens and what kind of mood we're in. It's normally no formula about it, though.
How did you feel about your performance out there today? I think it's answered all.
Enjoyed it. I enjoyed it, you know, it was quite good. The thing was that the amps broke down, you know, in one of the numbers, because there was some business with one of the wires broke or something, so which was a bit of a drag, you know, but nobody seemed to notice.
Do you think that this God thing is quashed forever now?
Well, it should be, you know, I mean, the amount of time we've spent on it, and you know, I don't know, all last night, trying to explain to everyone about it, so he didn't really mean it like that, you know. And I think, you know, from what I've seen of the people who've heard what we had to say about it, they seem to think it's okay now, you know. It should be, you know, because I mean, I didn't think it was ever un-okay. You know.
About the Revolver album, the Indian sound that you're getting on it,
Yeah.
who is mainly responsible for this side of
The Indian sounds
Indian sound?
are George. Yeah.
George has been studying.
Definitely, mainly George, because we started off, you know, just hearing Indian music and sort of listening to things, and we liked the drone idea, because we'd done a bit of that kind of thing in songs before, you know. But George got very interested in it and went to a couple of Ravi Shankar concerts, and then he sort of met Ravi and sort of was knocked out by him, and thought, like, just as a person, he's an incredible fella, you know, he's one of the greatest. And he thought, he didn't know that George was serious about it, and so when he found out George was serious, he was knocked out too. So the two of them are having a great time. And, you know, that's how we've got Indian sounds on at the moment. Because the thing is, anyway, it's nice to sort of start bridging the two kinds of music. You know, because we just started off in a very simple way. And then this album's got a bit better. I mean, it's a little bit more like Indian music. And it helps people to understand it too, because it's very hard at first to understand, yeah. Once you get into it, it's the greatest.
Who decided on this Tomorrow Never Knows, Weird Effects?
Weird Effects. Well, see, we wrote the song, and it was a very funny song from the start, because John came up with the lyrics to it. And he'd just been reading Tibetan Book of the Dead. And he was dead impressed by it, you know, very impressed. And he decided that he'd write the song, and we only had one verse. I think we stretched it to sort of 2 verses. And we couldn't think of any more words, because we'd sort of said it all what we wanted to say in about 2 verses. So we had to try and work out how to sort of do it and how to make it different. So I decided to do some of those loops that I've been doing on my home tape recorder. And they're just tape loops. And I'd been making them. So I just took about a bag full of 6 tape loops to the session. And we just tried them and mixed them in and brought them in those places. So I suppose it was sort of vaguely my idea, that bit of it.
Did you find opposition from people who want you to play to the teenagers?
Yeah, well, the thing is, you see, we've kept quite a few songs on the album. I mean, if we just suddenly did exactly what we'd want to do, in fact, I think actually at the moment that is what we want to do, what we've done on Revolver. But if we did, like, all the way out things, I mean, I suppose people think they're way out, I don't actually, but that kind of thing, if we did a whole album of them, then we'd be doing what, like, the people who do electronic music do. They go too far out too suddenly, and no one stays with them. Everyone else is left behind because they're miles out ahead, sort of digging all this electronic stuff. But in fact, what we've tried to do is, like, do the last album, Rubber Soul,
a bit more towards that, then this one a bit more, and the next one should be a bit more. And if people stay with us, you know, it's great. Lovely.
Who decided the 2 tracks to go as a single from it?
From the LP?
Yeah.
I think we all did, you know. I think it was a case of, we knew that when the album came out, there would be quite a few people going to cover it, so we thought we might as well have the hit, you know.
I think another Ricky will be another Yesterday.
I don't know, I don't think actually, the only thing that's similar to Yesterday is the fact that there's violins and stringed instruments on it. Apart from that, I think it's nothing to do with it, yeah. Completely different kind of tune. I think it's better in a way, but I sang Yesterday better. I sang Ellen and Rick terrible. Wow. Sorry, but no, it's, you listen to it, you know, and it's... I've listened to it. Okay.
Actually then, for what your music now is improving every time, and that you're making the lyrics more interesting also, aren't you?
Well, see, that's the thing. I mean, if we stayed where we were in, say, 1960, when we were doing Love Me Do, and then Please Please Me, and From Me to You, which was one kind of thing, you know, it was a kind of thing people liked. The thing is, if we did that now, I think our fans, the kind of fans that we got now, wouldn't like that too much, because it'd be going back and it'd be retracing your steps, you know. And also, from our point of view, we're never going to do that. Because, I mean, if we ever have to do that, if anyone suddenly says, you're going too way out, you've got to get back to Ben, well, we'll give up, you know.
Recently, at the last press reception, which I didn't think it was too grand, we had in Washington, that is,
Yeah.
the questions that were asked, one of them said about the crowds at the stadiums just recently, and they wanted to know how you felt about it, because they were, say, 20,000, 25,000, where before you used to get more. But
yeah, I don't mind about that, you know. The thing is, the people keep saying to us, look, your record sales have gone down and your concert appearances have gone down. But the thing is that compared with anyone else, they haven't. And the only people who set the records beforehand were us, you know, like for the concerts. But apparently, at the moment, we still play to more people than any other group does.
that's correct.
And so, I mean, you know, that doesn't worry us, because everyone else goes down in proportion. I mean, the only time if we were going to be worried by the whole sort of rat race, which we're not, you know, it doesn't really worry us. But if it did worry us, it might be when, for instance, another group started selling more records or more seats than us. Then we might get a bit worried, you know, but this doesn't worry us at all. We're still doing fine, you know.
But don't you think that the time when it comes, when there'll be no more open-air performances or indoor performances for you, that your records will still be going on selling even 10 years from now?
Well, I don't know. You see, this is the thing, actually, that we are more interested, really, in making music than we are probably in actually performing it, because we're not very good performers, you know. We haven't ever been able really to do what we've been able to do on records, on the stage. And also, when we play these big concerts, you know, it gets a bit more impossible each time to sort of get over to the people what you're trying to get over. So we're tending a bit more to get this over on records, you know, in the lyrics of words and the lyrics of songs, I mean. You know, so that I think that's getting a bit more important, and I hope it does go on for about, you know, as long as you like.
Well, actually, then, with your recordings and also coming about your open performances, you're improving yourself each time.
Well, I hope so, you know. I think probably we are, you know. But, yeah, we're trying to anyway.
Now, speaking of back home in England, Paul, where is it you're exactly living now? Is it in the centre of London or out on one of the counties? Like
no, it's just about 2 minutes outside London, in St. John's Wood, you know.
St. John's Wood, right.
Yeah.
You're not living in Weybridge or
no.
with the other lads?
No, well, you see, the kind of house I wanted is like only exists sort of, well, mainly exists a couple of minutes out of London. And also I like cities, you know, so I got the house there. I mean, I did think, obviously, you know, well, I ought to sort of go out to Weybridge and things, but I mean, I've talked to the others about it since, and we've all decided that it would be silly for me to, like, buy a house in Weybridge that I wasn't very keen on. You know, just to sort of go along with the whole thing. And we can still get to see each other dead easily. You know, I mean, we only live sort of for the most, say, half an hour away from each other. So we're still in pretty good contact, you know, and if I want to go out for a swim, I go out to their place.
Oh, marvellous. Well, now, when you get back home from this tour, will you be taking a holiday, say, Spain or somewhere like this?
I don't know, actually. I may do. We've got a few weeks off, you know. But I know, see, for instance, we want to do a record for Christmas. You know, we want to have a record for Christmas. So we've got to start thinking about that now. You know, we've got to start thinking about the next film that we do. So there's a lot of things. You know, it's like these people who start opening Christmas clubs in June. You know, we've got to start thinking about things like that now. So it'll be a holiday, but I think it'll be a holiday in which we'll be trying to think of things for when it isn't a holiday, you know. But, I mean, we'll take it easy.
I heard you took a trip to Spain before once, didn't you, on holiday?
I didn't go to Spain, no. I tried once to make Spain, and John and I were going to hitchhike. But we hitchhiked down from Liverpool. We didn't hitchhike, no, we got the train down from Liverpool because we thought, well, we won't hitchhike the first bit. And we got the boat over to Paris, and we got the train into Paris because we thought, well, it'd be too hard to get a hitch here. And we just stayed in Paris all week. Eventually, I mean, all the time trying to get out of Paris and make Spain, you know. We never made it. We just flew home at the end. Real lazy hitchhiking holiday.
By the way, I'd like to ask you just one more, because what do you think about the other night at Cleveland when we had the great rush of the young people there for the show?
Well,
how did you feel about that?
Well, the thing is, you see, I was talking to someone about our shows, and I was saying that the great thing nowadays about our shows is it's a completely different thing from what it used to be. It used to be that we performed and that everyone sort of sat back and listened to us in the very early days, and occasionally sort of joined in. But as it's gone bigger and bigger, and the whole thing has sort of improved a lot, it's gone along the track of the audience participating an awful lot, you know. So, I mean, now, for instance, when the kids are all shouting and things, it's part of our show. You know, the audience is half of our show, you know, easily. And we're sort of less of our show than we used to be. But, I mean, we don't mind that. It's great to have somebody else working on a show with you, you know. It's like all those people are in our act, you know. So that's fine. I mean, we'd love that. And so, for instance, when they do break through and things, as long as, like, nobody gets hurt, and as long as it's not too dangerous. Because, I mean, you know, we've been through more dangerous things. We used to have fights when we started off, I mean, in the audience. You know, we're a lot more dangerous than that. Like, there'd be 100 fellas fighting another 100 from the next district. And, you know, there'd be bottles and chairs going all over the place, and that was more dangerous than it gets now. So, I mean, it doesn't particularly worry us. As long as nobody else gets hurt, we love it, love every minute of it.
But actually, I think the other night at Cleveland, when all these youngsters steaged forward, it wasn't the act of violence or anything like this. It was more love for you than anything else.
Well, you know, I don't think any of them are violent. You know, they just come along. There's maybe one or two in a crowd of about 1,000 that's violent. But generally, they just want to... I mean, for instance, the other night, they all just came to the front of the stage. Nobody really tried to make much effort to get up on the stage, you know. Admittedly, there were sort of big gang of coppers saying, get off. But, I think they just wanted to sort of see us, listen to us and that, you know. It wasn't too bad at all. I enjoyed it.
Well, actually, what we're trying to say now is that the Beatlemania is still here in America, and you're still loved, even though the papers might put words differently. So you've proved the point, haven't you?
Well, I think the thing is that, like, every newspaper anywhere, when they get articles about Beatlemania and, you know, so many seats sold out and things, they can't go on forever writing that because it's no longer news after a bit. They've got to start knocking because it's the only way they can get any news out of it, you know, and talk about us, or else they don't talk about us. So they try and find sort of the knocking things in what we say, like John's remark on Christianity, you know, and they try and knock it because it makes a big news story for them. But, you know, it doesn't worry us that because, I mean, we just go along, we do the same things we always did in a way, and we don't worry about them.
That was part of my conversation with Paul McCartney. Next, I moved over to Ringo. Most people think that Ringo is a sad-looking fellow who never smiles. But actually, Ringo has quite a sense of humor. He seems to be one big-hearted, happy fellow. As I moved over to Ringo, I had in my hand a list of questions which my listeners in Kentucky Hannah had sent for me to ask the Beatles. Ringo saw my sheet of paper and jokingly said,
"There's another cheat, folks. Reads it out of paper. Got no brain." Not quite, Ringo. Well, actually, this is a lot of questions here from Beatle fans, but of course I'm only going to ask you a couple right now.
The first question you needn't ask me how many songs have you and John written. That's not really for me, is it?
No, I tell you. I'd like to ask you, though, when's your next Beatle movie coming up?
Well, with any luck, we may start making it in January. We've got a story, an idea, and there's a bloke now trying to write a script, but we haven't seen the script. We'll just hope the script's as good as the idea, which will remain nameless.
How did you like making the movie Help? Which did you prefer, the first one, Hard Day's Night, or Help? Did you enjoy most?
I enjoyed making them both, but I enjoyed Hard Day's Night when it was finished more. I don't know, I sort of got lost in Help a bit, you know.
Yes, you did in the film, didn't you?
Yes.
Well, you can see one question here. You always hear about Ringo's nose, but does anyone ever tease Paul about his innocent little boy face?
No, you get a few people saying cute and that, you know. Well, I mean, it's been quite nice the last couple of years. No one's mentioned my nose.
How do you feel now that you're married and being away from your wife on these tours?
Well, it's something I have to do, and, you know, we sorted that out before we got married, you know, that there's no argument when I have to go away because that's the job, you know, and so it's sorted out. There's never any problems. You know, I like being, you know, I can't say I'd rather be at home, which I would in one way, but, you know, it's a hard thing to say that you like being away from your wife, but I don't like being away from her. It's just that we've sorted it out, that touring, we split up for a while, you know.
How do you think of the reaction of the teenagers here today at your show? They were terrific. I think they were fabulous. But yourself, don't you think whatever the press might have to say or had to say in the past, the attitude's completely changed if anyone was to see you here today?
Oh yeah, well, in some ways it doesn't matter what the press say because the kids still will be the same at the show, you know. So that's the thing. But the thing is, if there's a lot of trouble in the press for months on end, then, you know, it can harm you.